All right, we're recording. Again, this is lesson number 4 in our Solid Edge ST4 online training. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about the 2D draft environment. And the 2D drawings are the bread and butter, more or less, of engineering design. And it's because it's a time-proven way to communicate production data. It explains why AutoCAD is so widely used is because we think in 3D or we design in 3D, but we think in 2D, and it's a great way to pass on information. So this is an area where Solid Edge really excels at. I mean, if you're looking at Solid Edge, you're going to see that rapid changes, making changes to designs is one area. The other area is communicating those designs in a 2D environment. So we're going to look at some of the tools that are available to us. This particular exercise set is in the Getting Started guide. It is section 3 for anyone who wants to follow along in the Getting Started guide or use this recorded video as a reference. It is also electronically in your Solid Edge interface in the test drive tutorials under the detailed production drawing section. So let's fire up Solid Edge and get started. You can see that the Getting Started with Solid Edge tutorials, you can access them right here, and we're in the third one here, detailed drawing production. So we're going to create, in this exercise, we're going to create a drawing of a part. Again, we're using our micrometer assembly here, and we're going to make a drawing of one of those parts, and we're going to talk about different ways we can convey that data. So I'm going to start by creating a new drawing, and I want this to be in the ISO format. That's just my template where all of my dimensions and standards are set up in the ISO standard. Again, engineering companies often make their own templates and save them with their own drawing backgrounds, their own standards. We're going to be using the ISO one. Right now, my default templates are all in ANSI, so instead of picking from my default templates, which I can do here in this flyout or down here in the welcome screen, I'm going to click directly on the new and just go into more. And that's where I'm going to kind of scroll down and find ISO draft. And let's open that up. And that's going to open up a new draft environment for me. And I'll just go down here and hit fit to screen to fit this to my screen. So we've basically got a blank drawing. And the way this works is you can see down here in the corner we've got sheet 1. Drawings can be arranged as technical data package where you have several sheets, kind of like a book. Oftentimes if you're doing an assembly, your top view will have, your top sheet will have your bill of materials, and then the subsequent sheets will have detailed drawings of the sub-assemblies, of the parts, and you can put that together into one big package, kind of like an Excel, if you think of an Excel file in Microsoft where you've got multiple sheets. But we're going to be working on the sheet 1. You see that we've got our background here, and I'm just going to go up into my application button, and I'm going to go to sheet setup. And this is where we sort of specify the size of the sheet. You can see that we're using an A2 wide format. Again, we can add more of these as we go. We can create custom sizes. And then the other thing that we pick is our background. And right now you see that in this template I have several backgrounds to pick from. In Solid Edge you can add backgrounds. You can label them with your, as I said, with our own company data and standards. In this case I want that A2 background sheet. So I'll hit OK. The other thing I want to do is set up how my views are displayed. And these options are again found in the application button. Down at the very bottom here, Solid Edge Options. And when I click on this, in this area, we're going to see a lot of different headings that we can go, drawing view styles, dimension styles. In this case, I'm going to go down to my drawing standards because that's where I've got things like my projections and how I show hatches and cross sections. There's a lot of things that we can edit in here. In this case, I'm going to change my projection angle from first to third. And I'll hit OK. Alright, so my drawing's kind of set up the way I want it. I'm ready to start adding data. And the way we add data is, remember, our design is captured in the 3D model. The 2D interface is just how we display that information to manufacturers, customers, other companies in our supply chain. So I'm going to go and retrieve the data from a 3D model using the drawing view wizard up here in the corner. So I'm going to click to start that command. And what we're looking for is we're looking for a frame 2 part. So I'm in the right directory, and again I can browse through directories with this drop-down menu. And I want to make sure, am I looking for a part, an assembly, or something else? So in this case, it's a part file, so I want to just turn my filter on here to look for only files of type PAR, which is the extension for a part. And remember that a part is anything that is created from a single piece of material. So we'll scroll down here until we find frame 2, and there it is in the preview. And that's the 3D model I want to create a drawing of. So I'll go and hit open. And this will kick off our drawing view wizard. So in this first page, it's going to ask me about how I want this drawing to be displayed. And this top setting here is it's asking me, do I want the designed part? Other environments we can have are a simplified part. If it's a complex assembly, if it's a complex part, we can also, for sheet metal, put in a flat pattern. But in this case, the design part is fine. We can also elect if we want PMI model views shown in here. In this case, I don't have any saved views that are PMI, which is product manufacturing information. And then some things about how we want hidden edges shown, and I've got them shown in orthographic views. So I'll hit next to go to the next step. This one says me, what do I want to be my principal drawing view orientation? And if you remember from the 3D interface, we kind of have a coordinate system, and that defines our front, left, right side. So in this case, I want to start at the front as my base view. And when I hit next, it'll prompt me with this interface to add additional views. And I'm going to add a top view and a side view just by clicking and highlighting those buttons. When I'm done all that, I'm going to hit finish. And now I've got this box on the end of my cursor, and this represents my 3 views that I picked. I'm going to place them on the drawing sheet. We've seen this before in other exercises. What I'm going to do here, you see I've got some options that I can set before I click to place that view, and I'm just going to set my scale. My scale is set to 2 to 1. I'm going to set that to 1 to 1 because I know that I'm going to be putting more data on here. And when I click to place those views, it'll drop them into my 2D environment. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got our front view, which is this one right here, and then 2 additional views. If at this point I decide I want to make some more views, the command I'm going to use is the principal view command. It's right up here, and it's a pretty straightforward command. You click on the command, and remember, if you're ever unsure of what to do next, look down at your prompt bar, because that tells you what to do. It says click on a drawing view. And basically, I'm going to click on a drawing view, and then depending on where my mouse comes off of that drawing view, it will create the appropriate view based on my angle of projection. In this case, I'm working in 3rd angle projection, so coming out on this side will create a view to the right, for example. You can even come off diagonally for an isometric view, and that's actually what I want in this case. I'm going to come up here and click to place that. Now I have an isometric view created. So I'm going to switch back to my select tool, which I can do by either reaching up here and clicking select, or pulling it off of my radial menu, because right now I'm still in that principal view command. You can see it highlighted there. It's going to wait for me to place more principal views. So I'll go to my select tool right here, and now I want to just click on this view and hold down, and that's going to allow me to move it. And I want to move this view kind of up over here. Notice too that if I move a orthographic view, it's going to maintain the alignment with the other views. By default, it'll want to maintain orthographic alignment with those other drawing views. Okay, what else do we want? Well, let's say now I want a section view. I can see up here I have a section view command, but if I click to start it, it's asking me to click on a cutting plane, and I haven't defined any cutting planes yet. So before we get to that step, maybe the first thing we want to do is define a cutting plane, and that command is just above it up here in our Home tab. So I'll click on that, and it says to click on a drawing view. So I'm going to use this drawing view to define my cutting plane. So I click on it, and now I'm ready to draw my cutting plane. Now I'm going to zoom in there, and again I'll use that zoom area command on my radial menu to just kind of box around where I want to work, and then right click to cancel it. So this is the view that we want to define our cutting plane on. You see that up in the corner we're already in the sketch mode to draw a line, because we're going to draw a line across this to define that cutting view. Now I want this line to be centered across the middle of this, so I'm just going to kind of mouse over these edges, and you see that I can pick up on key points. And what I'm looking for is that midpoint. That just tells me that I'm on that midpoint. Now I don't want to click on the midpoint. I want to come just off of it. And you'll see that my cursor creates a little dotted line that it'll want to snap to that tells me that when I click to place that first point of the line, I'm going to make it in line with that midpoint. I had to mouse over that midpoint first to just kind of wake up the program and let it infer that that's the key point I'm interested in. Now drawing that line across, I'm going to snap it to the horizontal. This is exactly the same tools we use to define sketches of feature profiles in the 3D environment. And when I see that it's horizontal, I'll click again to finish that line. Now I'm creating another line. It's on the end of my cursor, ready to create another line. I'll just hit right click to cancel because that's all I need to define a cutting plane. And I'll finish that by hitting the close cutting plane command. Now it's prompting me to indicate the view direction. Which direction am I looking at this when I create my cutting plane? And I want to be looking at it from this direction, so I'll move my mouse to this side of the cutting plane and click to accept that. And again, we'll fit to screen. So now we've defined a cutting plane. Let's start that section view again. And now when it says click on a cutting plane, I can do that. And it's going to place that section view orthogonally to that cutting plane. And there's my section view right there. Now I'll go back to my select tool because I want to move this section view, but right now that section view, because it's orthographic, is maintaining its alignment. If I want to break that alignment and put that section view somewhere in the middle of the page, I can right click on it and just uncheck this maintain alignment setting in the right click shortcut menu. What that's going to allow me to do now is place it, and you see it gives me that dotted line that tells me that this is related to this, but I've cleared the maintain alignment option. So it's going to allow me to kind of place that there. And I'll just rearrange my drawing views. Okay, what's next? Let's do a detail view. The detail view command is right up here. Most of the commands you use in the sketch environment are right here on that home tab. And I'm going to start that command and it's going to say click for the center point of the circle. So I want to zoom into, I want to make a detail view of an area on the section view. So I'm just going to zoom in, and again I'm going to start my zoom area command, and we can start this command even though we're in the middle of another command. I'll just right click to cancel when I'm done, and you see I'm still in that detail view ready to create my my center point of my detail view. In Solid Edge we can create circular detail views. We can also create custom defined profiles of the detail view, so you're really not constrained at all. I want my detail view to kind of start the center of my circular detail view to be in this area here, so I'm just going to kind of wake up the midpoints of both of these lines, and then my cursor, and I'll just turn on my magnifying glass because you can see, my cursor will kind of snap to where I'm in line with both those center points, and clicking once will allow me to start drawing that circle. So I'll pull that up here. I'll set my detail view to, let's say 2:1, and now we'll just zoom out and place that detail view over here. Okay, what else do we want to do? Well, I might want to change the display of my isometric view. But before I jump to that, I just see we got a question here. Someone's asking, are the key points always available, or is there a control to switching it on and off? And that's a great question. I'm just going to digress for a second before we move out. When you're in any sort of a sketching environment, those key points will be on to help you kind of pick up on things. But that is all controlled in this little feature here called IntelliSketch. So you can tweak how that works. And you see that right here in the Sketching tab, it's showing us endpoints, midpoints, anywhere on the element. These are the key points that it will pick up on, and we can uncheck these if we don't want to pick up on those. So for example, I may want to always pick up on endpoints and center points, but I can actually I can turn off midpoint detection or point on detection. Just kind of allows you to filter out what you're picking up on, or you can turn them off entirely in these IntelliSketch options here. So it is totally configurable. Now getting back to where we were, I want to change the display of this isometric view. And you see that when I click on it, I get my properties bar here. This helps me set things like scale, as well as annotations, callouts, and things like that. I can put a caption on this. What I want to change over here is the shading options. And right now it's kind of at an unshaded view. I want to do shaded with edges. And when I set that and then just click anywhere in the space to get out of that, it shows me that I've got this box around which tells me that the view is out of date. So to update that view, I'll do that. I'll hit the Update Views button, and now we have that kind of rendered view. of the isometric, or of the the isometric view. So let's get some dimensions on this, because if we're sending this to manufacturer, obviously they need to know dimensions, maybe even tolerancing. And if you remember, when we were designing in the 2D environment, we were kind of placing dimensions all over the place to drive our design. In Solid Edge, you can place a dimension anywhere in 3D space and use it to drive your design. So a lot of those dimensions kind of define our key dimensions, our important dimensions in this design. And we can retrieve those into the 2D environment and save us some detailing. And I'm going to go up with this retrieve dimension command. So I'll click on this, and then it's prompting me to click on a drawing view. And when I do that, it's going to pick out any of the 3D data that I used to design this that is aligned with this view. So you see we've got quite a bit of information here, and we can use this to define our 3D or our 2D drawing. So again, I can click and move any of these dimensions to kind of line them up a bit better. I've even got tools for aligning dimensions, like the line up text option, where I can kind of choose a dimension that I want to line other ones up to and snap them to that. So we can make this a little more ordered. We can also get rid of anything that's extraneous. For example, I've already got that 10 mil over here, so let's delete that. But that's a quick way to retrieve production dimensions. I'll just do that over here with another drawing view. And there we've got more dimensions already placed. Now, in addition to that, of course, we can manually detail these drawings. If I want to pick up on, maybe display this radius, I can start a smart dimension and then just click on that radial element and place that radius. You notice, too, that in the middle of a command, I can change my drawing standard. I like having the radius jogged out, and that's actually an ANSI standard, so I'll just switch that over to ANSI millimeter, and it displays a little bit differently. Solid Edge comes with a number of different drawing and annotation standards, but of course you can create your own and save them. So let's just pan up, and I'll use my the same right-click plus Shift and Control, or both, that we used in the 3D environment work in the 2D environment. So I'm going to pan up by holding down Shift and Control and then holding down my right-click and dragging my mouse, because I want to place some dimensions on my detailed view here. Actually, let's place them here on the detail view. And I'll do a distance between. Same basic deal as a smart dimension, only I have to pick up on 2 dimensions here. So there's one. And notice that this is the true dimension. Even though this detail view is at a different scale, Solid Edge will always retrieve the true dimension. So I'll place another dimension on this line, and that distance between allows me to stack dimensions as I want. So I want to place them there. If we were to place a distance between on this, which is actually the same part, you see that we get that 2 millimeters as well. So the detail views, regardless of your scale, your place dimensions will always be the true dimensions in your design space. All right, another thing we may want to throw in is some center marks. And I've got a tool here to put in center marks. You see that we can define how the center mark is displayed, whether we want projection lines off, and even the line type for our center marks. I like a solid line with projection lines, and that'll give me something like that. In addition, we have an automatic center mark command right here, which will automatically put in center lines and center marks like that. And that saves you a bit of time detailing the drawing. Just got a question here. Somebody's asking how to do an undo quickly. Couple of ways we can do that. We've got the undo command here, and the shortcut to that is Control-Z, just like in Microsoft Word. So if I hit remember the last thing I did was place those center lines, Control-Z will undo that. If you've also got the ability to hit this downward arrow, and it will remember, I think it's 10 different commands that you did. So if you want to undo back to a certain point, and you can see here it's placed the center mark, I placed some dimensions, I can go all the way up to when I was lining up those texts to undo that. So that's another way you can do undo in Solid Edge, and it becomes a very handy tool. All right, so our drawing's looking pretty good. What if in detailing this, I find something I want to change in the drawing. You know, I say, well, actually, looking at this, I think we need a little bit more distance on our frame to move it up a bit. So here's the thing about Solid Edge. In order to change your design, you need to get into the 3D model and change that 3D model. That's your driving document, be that an assembly, a part. The 3D model is your driving, is where you've captured your design, and the 2D environment is just where you're conveying that. So I can't go and click on these dimensions and change them right from the 2D environment. And there's a good reason behind that. Solid Edge is designed with ISO 9001-2000 compatibility, and certain features are built in. One of the ideas is that the person detailing your draft may not be your lead designer. You may not want to give them the permission to make design changes while they're detailing a draft. In order for them to make that change, they have to have access to that 3D data, and that's something you can control with file permissions. So it's sort of a built-in check and balance to keep an engineering process in place. Now, if I do want to change this, I can double-click on any of these drawing views and it will take me into the 3D environment. Now, if my manager didn't want me to be able to make those changes, I wouldn't have access to this file. But in this case, I do. So let's make a change. I wanted to raise this up. And you remember in Solid Edge, we can click on a face and we get that steering wheel to move things up. We can also place dimensions wherever we want. And my dimensions that I placed before currently aren't shown. I can turn them on to show all those dimensions. And maybe there's a dimension here to accommodate what I want to do. And in fact, what I've got here is I've got this callout here which defines the distance between the center point of this cylindrical feature and the base of my frame. And that's what I want to change. Let's say I want that to be 60. Again, if that dimension wasn't there, I could place it myself. I can always delete them. Dimensions really, unless you've locked a dimension like these pink ones, dimensions don't have, they're not cut in stone. We can change them whenever we want. So I'm going to click on this callout, making sure that the dimension change is pointing the direction I want. So do I want to make that 60 by moving up the cylindrical feature, or do I want to flip that arrow and move this face down? You know, there's two ways to make that change. I can make the frame base thicker, or I could move this up and make these arms longer. And I think I want to do the latter. So I'll switch that direction again and type in 60. And it will make that change. And the built-in live rules in Solid Edge will maintain my design intent, meaning that it's moved up this face as well to maintain those alignments. Again, I can override live rules if I wanted them not to be in a line, but they're built there to kind of save you time and protect your design intent. So going back to my drawing view with the switch windows command, or my draft rather, I jump in here and you see that I'm immediately going to get this message that one of my views is out of date. And that's, again, because your drafts person might be separate from the person who is doing your design modifications, and they need to be told that, hey, something's changed in here. So I'll hit OK to acknowledge that, and I'll just fit my screen. And it's showing me that all the views are out of date. So as a drafts person, now I can say, all right, well, I recognize that that's out of date. I'm going to update the views. And when I do that, it's going to change the views to show those dimensional changes, but it'll also place callouts on anything that's changed. So right here, obviously saying a center mark has changed, that doesn't really concern me, so I'll just clear that one. But this one here, it's saying you've got a dimension. The value used to be 58 and now is 60. And I can even click Find, and it will snap me to that dimension so that I can review that as the drafts person and be aware that that change has taken place. I can even copy this and place that history in a revision box as like a text box to record this new revision of this part. So that's built in there to help you track that drawings. When I'm done doing that, I can leave that call out there, or I can clear it out of the way and hit close. So that shows you that there is you make that change in your 3D environment and your 2D model will update and change. Goes along for the ride. So that covers, I'm going to save this, that covers about everything that is done in the exercise. This is the point where I kind of digress and show you guys a little bit more of what you can do, sort of a bonus feature. In the meantime, if anyone's got any questions, start typing them now because I can address them. So one thing I want to show you guys, we got a bunch of cool functions here. I want to show you guys how a broken out section view works. Excuse me. You see we got that command up here in the corner. And it's a multi-step process. The first is going to say, pick a drawing view to define your broken out section view. And I'm going to click on this drawing view. So it's going to take me into a sketching environment. Maybe I'll use the box zoom to get in there. And I'm going to draw a broken out section profile. And a broken out section profile can be anything you want. The only catch is that it has to be a closed area. So let's say I'm going to pick, a rectangle by 2 points and kind of draw a rectangle starting here along that midpoint and up there. So there's my closed area. I'll hit Close Broken Out Section View, and then you see that my toolbars move me to the next stage, which is the depth. And it says click to set the distance or key in a value. So I can type in a value of how deep I want that cut to be, or if I just zoom out a bit, you can see I can use adjacent drawing views to define that depth, because they're adjacent orthographic views. They'll allow me to define the depth. And I'm going to use this one, and I'm just going to kind of snap to the center point there. I want that to go halfway through. Now the last step I'm in is the select the target view step, and in my prompt bar it's saying select the drawing view to apply the cutout. And broken out section views look the coolest on an isometric view. So I'll click that isometric view, and look what it's done for me. It's created a broken out section view based on the profile I drew. Now, if I want to change that, there's ways to do that, and it's a good time to kind of show you guys that clicking on a drawing view, we talked that you can change the scale, captions, or the drawing, the shading options. There's a whole bunch of options that we can throw in here by clicking on the properties box. We can get into a lot of detail, including whether we're showing hidden edges or not under the display. We can also, if it's an assembly, hide or show certain parts. We can edit our captions and how and when they're shown. How our section views look, annotations, even the level of detail in the shading and color and in the drawing. So I want that to be 200 pixels per inch, and I want better display on the drawing. So you can kind of dial this up to put more detail in. I'm going to go back to the General tab, because this is where I want to show the broken out section view profiles. You see, right now I don't really know where I may not know where that section, broken out section view is defined. So by highlighting this or checking this box and hitting OK, it'll show up. There's my broken out section view profile. It'll also say that my drawing's out of date, and that's because I've upped the display. And basically what that means, if we zoom right in here, you see how we've got kind of pixely little edges. By increasing that, increasing the fineness of that display, we get a little more less granular display on that. Similarly, I can edit, now that I can see my broken out section view, I can click that and I get this. I can edit the depth, or I can edit the profile. And if I edit the profile, you'll see that we can actually make this profile anything we want. I drew a box, but if I wanted to get really creative, maybe I'll draw a curve, start up here, and just kind of do a wavy line connecting into the corner. And then use my trim command to trim away the edges of the display that I didn't want. So that's going to allow me to change the shape of my broken out section view. In curves, you can get a lot of control over how these look. But let's say we want it looking something like that now. I'll close the broken out section view, and when we update the drawings again, you see that our section view looks entirely different. So there's a lot of creativity you can get with detail views, section views. You can make them basically any shape you want. Here's another thing that's kind of handy, and I think this is unique to Solid Edge. We've got the ability in any one of these views to right-click on it and go into the Draw in View environment. And what this allows us to do is it basically allows us to put additional information or hide certain information in a drawing view. So this is the drawing as it's shown, as it's retrieving from the 3D model, but I can add anything I want to that. For example, maybe if I want to show the shoulder of the bolt, I'll just draw a circle in here of a certain diameter. Maybe that's 5 mil. And then maybe put a call out on it that says bolt face contact area. Again, this isn't something that would necessarily be in the 3D part, but it might be additional information that I want to put into this drawing view. Similarly, I can go in and hide certain edges. We got this great command called hide edges. So I can actually eliminate certain edges from the view if I want to make it for clarity or whatever reason. If I want to bring those back, we have the show edges command, and it will show me in magenta any edges I have hidden. So now you can see that I've actually added information and modified that view, but it is still an intelligent 2D view that will update with the drawing. So that draw in view command, which again you can right click on any drawing view and enter the draw in view environment, is a great way to kind of override or modify intelligent 2D data, and it's very unique to Solid Edge. An example of where you might see this is if you're designing a piece of machinery and want to show its range of motion. You may want that drawn in at the appropriate scale, and that's when you draw in the view to add that information. So that's just another little tip of something you might want to explore. All right. I'm going to stop recording and give you guys one more chance to ask any questions. This will be posted again as a replay, and it'll be posted on our YouTube account.